$100,000. In some states, that's a down payment on a closet with a view of a brick wall. In others, it's an entire house with land, history, and a mortgage payment lower than your Starbucks addiction. But here's the thing nobody talks about. The states where $100K actually buys you something real, they're not the ones you think. And what you get for that money is complicated. So you've got $100,000 burning a hole in your pocket. Maybe it's an inheritance. Maybe you saved like hell. Maybe you just sold your soul to cryptocurrency and got out before the crash. Doesn't matter. What matters is this. Where you spend that money could mean the difference between financial freedom and financial suicide. Between a 2-bedroom starter home and a literal shack held together by prayers and asbestos. We're about to take a trip up the eastern seaboard of America, starting where everyone goes to retire and hopefully not die in a hurricane, and ending in places so affordable you'll wonder what the catch is. Spoiler, there's always a catch. But before we dive in, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Because if you're the kind of person who wants to know where money actually still means something in this economy, you're going to want to stick around for what comes next. Now, let's start in the land of theme parks, python invasions, and insurance premiums that would make a cartel boss weep. Florida, the Sunshine State, America's air-conditioned purgatory. The place where everyone's either moving to or moving from, and nobody can quite figure out which is the smart play. The median home price in Florida right now hovers around $410,000. That's up from $242,000 just 5 years ago. So, let's get one thing straight immediately. $100,000 in Florida doesn't buy you a house. It buys you complications. You can find condos for under $100,000 in places like Lauderhill, a community carved out of old dairy farmland about 20 minutes from Fort Lauderdale. Picture it, a 1-bedroom unit in a building that's seen better decades, probably needs updates, and comes with HOA fees that increase annually like clockwork. It's yours, technically, but is it worth it? Here's what nobody tells you about Florida real estate right now. Homeowners' insurance costs have exploded by 54% since 2019. Hurricane season isn't a quirky news story anymore. It's an existential threat to your net worth. Your mortgage might be $600 a month, but your insurance? That's another $400 minimum. And then there's the elephant in the very humid room. You need to earn almost $100,000 a year just to afford the median home in Florida now. Before the pandemic, that number was $40,000. Let that sink in. The state that used to be affordable retirement paradise is now pricing out everyone except tech workers and people who made questionable life choices that happened to work out. But wait, it gets weirder. Florida's housing market has flipped, and not in a good way. There are more homes for sale than buyers who can actually afford them. Properties are sitting on the market for about 53 days, which is basically an eternity in real estate time. Sellers are getting desperate, price cuts are becoming common, which means maybe this is actually your chance. If you can stomach the insurance costs, the humidity that feels like being slowly steamed, and the very real possibility that your cute little condo becomes an underwater attraction, literally during the next major storm, then yeah, Florida's $100K game might work for you. Just know what you're getting into. This isn't 2019 anymore. Florida's cheap era is over. What you're buying now isn't opportunity, it's risk with the ocean view. But let's keep moving, because just north of Florida's chaos, things get interesting. Georgia. Peaches, Coca-Cola, and a real estate market that still remembers what the word affordable means. The average home in Georgia costs $383,400. Still out of reach for our $100,000 budget, obviously. But here's where Georgia gets fascinating. Over 14,000 homes are currently listed under $100,000 across the state. 14,000! Let that number marinate for a second. While Florida is busy pricing out its own residents, Georgia is sitting there like a responsible adult at a party full of drunk people, quietly offering actual options. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say these are mansions in Buckhead. Places like Americus have median home prices around $112,000, And you can find properties in Albany, Columbus, and Augusta in similar ranges. These are small-town Georgia properties. Think modest square footage, older construction, neighborhoods that peaked sometime around when your parents were in high school. But they're real. They're whole houses. And here's the thing that matters. They're in a state that's actually growing. Georgia's cost of living is about 6% below the national average, and the state keeps attracting people who are done paying California or New York prices for the privilege of existing. The job market is solid. Atlanta is one of the fastest growing metro areas in the country. Fortune 500 companies are everywhere, which means your $100,000 purchase in some forgotten corner of Georgia isn't just cheap, it's cheap with potential. You want the real play here? Cities like Gainesville, Smyrna, and areas around Augusta are seeing consistent rental demand. You could buy an under $100,000 starter property, rent it out to the constant stream of people moving to Georgia, and actually make this thing cash flow. I can't decide if that's genius or just less insane than the other options. The catch? Location, location, location. And I'm not talking about the good kind. Your $100,000 Georgia property probably isn't in the nice part of town. It's in the part where Google Maps gets real quiet, and your friends from coastal cities ask if you need a welfare check. But you know what? You'll own it outright. No massive mortgage. No soul-crushing debt. Just you, a house in Georgia, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing you're not hemorrhaging money every month. Now let's talk about a state that somehow flew under everyone's radar while becoming one of the smartest real estate plays in the South. Alabama. Sweet home. Alabama, where the real estate is so cheap, you'll think there's been a typo. The median home price in Alabama is $277,200. That's already dramatically more reasonable than what we've seen. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Selma has a median home price of $60,305. $60,000 for a whole house. Not a shed, not a repurposed storage unit, an actual residential property where humans can legally live without violating Geneva Convention standards. Alabama's cost of living index is 87.9, making it the third lowest in the country. Translation: your money goes further here than almost anywhere else in America. Cities like Gadsden, Bessemer, Birmingham, and Anniston all have median prices well under $130,000. Your $100,000 in Alabama? That's not down payment money. That's own the place outright and have cash left over money. But before you start packing your bags for Birmingham, let's talk about why these prices exist. Alabama isn't cheap because everyone's keeping a secret. It's cheap because the state has been losing population to its neighbors for years. People are moving to Alabama. Yes, it was the 6th most popular moving destination in 2024. But they're mostly concentrating in a handful of cities: Huntsville, Madison, Auburn, places with jobs and infrastructure and things to actually do. The ultra-cheap properties, those are in the places people are leaving, which creates this weird opportunity/crisis situation. If you're buying in Alabama for $100,000 or less, you're essentially betting that these forgotten towns will somehow revitalize. Or you're accepting that you're buying in a place that's slowly bleeding residents and hoping the low cost of living makes up for the declining services, schools, and opportunity. Birmingham is seeing downtown revitalization, particularly around the medical district. The University of Alabama at Birmingham is a major employer. Huntsville's property values have shown consistent, double-digit annual growth thanks to aerospace and defense contractors. So the play in Alabama is actually pretty simple. Buy cheap in the right secondary city, hope the growth spreads from the major metros, and pray you're early to a trend instead of late to a sinking ship. It's a gamble, but it's a cheap gamble, and sometimes that's all you need. Let's keep heading north, where things get even more interesting. South Carolina. The state people accidentally discover while driving between Florida and North Carolina, and then can't stop talking about. South Carolina's median home price is around $391,000 statewide, which means, once again, we're not buying oceanfront property in Charleston with our $100,000, but stick with me, because South Carolina is pulling off something remarkable right now. The state's housing inventory grew by 6.7% year over year, bringing the total available homes to over 28,000. The market has shifted to favor buyers, with only 11.5% of homes closing above asking price, and price drops becoming increasingly common. This is what a market rebalancing looks like in real time. And here's the part that matters for our $100,000 budget. The average home in South Carolina costs around $170,000, about 3/4 of what you'd pay in other parts of the country. Property taxes are only 0.57%, which is genuinely insane compared to places like New Jersey or Texas. Your $100,000 isn't quite enough to buy solo, sure, but it's one hell of a down payment. And if you're creative, looking at properties that need work, considering smaller towns, being willing to compromise on that Instagram-worthy aesthetic, you can make moves here. People are flooding into South Carolina from New York, California, and Illinois. The combination of low taxes, affordable housing, and actually pleasant weather is basically catnip for anyone exhausted by expensive coastal living. Tourism is massive here. Those beaches and that southern charm aren't just pretty, they're profitable. The rental market, especially for short-term vacation properties, is thriving. If you can scrape together enough for a modest property near the coast or in a college town, you could genuinely build something here. The catch? Everyone else has figured this out too. South Carolina's secret is out. More people are moving from Florida to South Carolina specifically because of Florida's insurance crisis. The state is growing, which is great if you're early but problematic if you're late. Still, if I had to pick a state where $100,000 feels like it has legitimate potential to turn into something more than just a place to live, South Carolina would be near the top of my list. But we're not done climbing north yet. Next up, the state that somehow convinced everyone it's just barbecue and country music when it's actually a stealth real estate opportunity. Tennessee. No income tax, 4 distinct seasons, and real estate prices that still make sense if you squint. Tennessee's median home price is $383,700. For the 4th time on this journey, we're nowhere near buying the median. But Tennessee has something going for it that a lot of states don't. Homes are actually staying on the market for 75 days, up from 68 days last year. That's buyer leverage. Only 13.8% of homes are selling above asking price, and nearly a quarter of sellers have reduced their prices. The Tennessee housing market has shifted from "you'll take what you can get" to "let's talk about this." And while your $100,000 isn't buying you a house in Nashville, where the median is pushing $440,000, it's buying you options in the forgotten corners of the state. Rural East Tennessee areas like Newport, Rogersville, and Morristown offer budget homes. We're talking older properties, fixer-uppers, small-town living where the biggest entertainment is high school football. West Tennessee cities like Jackson, Lexington, and Savannah provide affordable properties too, though good luck convincing your friends from Austin to come visit. But here's what makes Tennessee compelling. The state attracted over 9,000 new residents during the winter 2024-2025 peak moving season, primarily from New York, California, and Illinois. Zero income tax is a hell of a drug. Tennessee's cost of living is nearly 10% lower than the national average, and the state has been steadily adding jobs. High-yield rental areas like Antioch and suburbs of Knoxville are becoming increasingly attractive to investors. Chattanooga and Murfreesboro are seeing prices stabilize as tech and logistics sectors grow. The Tennessee play is actually pretty straightforward. Buy cheap in a secondary or tertiary market, rent it out to the wave of people escaping expensive states, and ride the appreciation as Tennessee continues being one of the most tax-friendly, economically growing states in the South. It's not sexy. Your property won't be in downtown Nashville with rooftop bars and honky-tonks. But it'll be real, it'll appreciate, and it won't bankrupt you. I think that counts as winning in 2025. Now we're going to hit 3 states rapid fire that represent the absolute deepest value plays in America, And the biggest question marks: North Carolina. Mountains, beaches, and a real estate market that's somehow both expensive and affordable depending on which direction you're looking. North Carolina's median property values sit around $183,200, significantly lower than the national average. That's already more promising than most of what we've seen. But here's the beautiful chaos of North Carolina. The state is huge, diverse, and wildly inconsistent. Charlotte and Raleigh are packed with Fortune 500 companies and top talent, driving prices up in those metros. But venture outside the major cities and suddenly $100,000 starts to whisper possibilities. The Western Mountains. You'll find older properties, cabins that need work, land parcels where you could build something modest. The Eastern Flatlands. Agricultural communities, small towns that peaked decades ago, and prices that reflect a state in transition. North Carolina offers abundant outdoor activities, excellent colleges and universities, and strong healthcare options. The state is growing at 2% year over year. People want to be here. The job market is thriving. Your $100,000 won't buy you a turnkey anything in the desirable parts. But as a down payment, as seed money for something you're willing to renovate, as an entry point into a state that's only becoming more valuable? North Carolina isn't the cheapest option on this list, but it might be the smartest long-term bet. You're not buying in a declining area hoping for a reversal. You're buying in a growing state where your money goes further than it should. The catch is speed. North Carolina's secret got out years ago. You're late to this party, but that doesn't mean there's no punch left in the bowl. Kentucky. Bourbon, horses, and home prices so low, you'll check if the listing is actually a scam. Kentucky's median home price is $278,700. We're finally in the zone where $100,000 isn't just theoretical, it's actually close to functional. But wait, it gets better. Middlesboro has a median price of $110,645. Williamsburg, Olive Hill, Central City, and Princeton all have median home prices under $135,000. This is it. This is where your $100,000 starts being an actual down payment on a real house. Or, if you're willing to compromise, the entire purchase price. Kentucky's cost of living is 6.2% lower than the national average. The state is quietly attracting people from expensive metros who are exhausted by spending half their income on rent. Cities like Bowling Green, Elkton, and Richmond are welcoming new residents. Home prices are up, but only 0.9% year over year. That's growth without explosion, stability without stagnation. Housing inventory increased by 10.9%, giving buyers actual options and negotiating power. Here's the Kentucky pitch. It's affordable, it's stable, and it's not actively trying to kill you with natural disasters. No hurricanes, no wildfires, no earthquakes. Just 4 seasons, bourbon distilleries, and housing prices that feel like they're from 2010. The catch? It's Kentucky. And I don't mean that as an insult, I mean it as a reality check. You're not moving to a booming tech hub. You're not surrounded by cutting-edge culture and innovation. You're in the middle of America, in a state that's nice, fine, perfectly pleasant, and also not particularly exciting. But maybe that's okay. Maybe boring and affordable beats exciting and bankrupting. Your $100,000 in Kentucky could legitimately buy you a full house. Not a great house. Probably an old house. Definitely a house that needs some love. But a house nonetheless. Sometimes that's all you need. West Virginia. Mountain. Mama, take me home. To the place where real estate prices make you wonder if there's been a currency devaluation. West Virginia's median home price is $244,200. But that's just the median. The statewide median is closer to $198,500 in some reports, and you can find over 260 homes for sale under $100,000 in Kanawha County alone. This is where we've arrived. The bottom of the affordability barrel, where your $100,000 isn't a down payment or a compromise. It's the whole deal. West Virginia's cost of living is 9.7% below the national average. The price-to-income ratio is 3.2, dramatically below the national average of 4.7. Your money doesn't just go further here, it practically sprints. Homes are selling, prices are rising modestly, and the market is showing acceleration. Properties spend about 64 days on the market, which is fast enough to indicate demand, but slow enough to give buyers breathing room. So, what's the catch? West Virginia is cheap for a reason. The state has struggled with population decline, limited job opportunities outside a few industries, and an economy heavily dependent on sectors that have seen better days. You're buying in one of the least expensive states because it's one of the least desirable states, at least according to demographic trends. But, and this is important, rental yields in West Virginia are strong, with a rent-to-price ratio of 0.85% compared to the national average of 0.6%. Rents have increased 5.8% annually over the past 3 years. If you can stomach buying in a state where your friends will ask if you need an intervention, West Virginia offers something almost no other state can. Genuine affordability with actual appreciation potential and rental income that makes mathematical sense. Your $100,000 could buy you a house, rent it out, cover your expenses, and maybe even make a little profit. It's not glamorous, it's definitely not Instagram worthy. But it's real, and sometimes real beats aspirational. Virginia. We've climbed from the swamps of Florida to the mountains of West Virginia, and now we land in a state that combines the worst of both worlds, expensive and complicated. Virginia's median home price is $425,100. That's right. We're back in why is housing so expensive territory. Homes are selling in just 41 days, and prices rose 6.3% year over year. Virginia's not messing around. This is a competitive, expensive, seller-dominated market where $100,000 is barely a respectable down payment. Northern Virginia's median home price is $664,000 because of course it is. Proximity to D.C. and federal employment means prices that would make a Californian wince. Hampton Roads sits at $345,000, driven by military presence and port activity. Richmond is at $389,975. Even the affordable parts of Virginia aren't that affordable anymore. Your $100,000 in Virginia is a down payment, nothing more. But here's the thing. Virginia's market is strong for a reason. The economy is robust, job growth is consistent, and demand remains high. There's only a 2-month supply of homes, which means sellers hold all the cards. If you're using your $100,000 as a strategic down payment in Virginia, you're betting on continued growth, strong job markets, and a state that's proven it can appreciate reliably. It's expensive, yes. But expensive doesn't always mean bad. Sometimes it means competitive, desirable, and ultimately worth it. The Virginia play isn't about affordability, it's about momentum. You're paying a premium to be in a state that's been winning for decades and shows no signs of stopping. Whether that's smart or just Stockholm Syndrome with real estate is up to you. So let's do the math on what your $100K actually bought you across these 10 states. In Florida, it bought you a condo in need of updates and insurance premiums that would make you cry. In Georgia, it's a strong down payment with 14,000 properties under $100K scattered across smaller cities. In Alabama, it's a whole house with cash left over, if you can handle living where the jobs aren't. In South Carolina, it's a solid down payment in a growing state where everyone's moving. In Tennessee, it's options in rural areas and leverage in a buyer-friendly market. In North Carolina, it's entry into a state that's expensive because people actually want to be there. In Kentucky, it's close to buying a full house, boring stability included. In West Virginia, it's a house, rental income, and the lowest cost of living in America. In Virginia, it's barely 20% down in a market that doesn't care about your feelings. The truth is, there's no perfect answer. $100K in 2025 is simultaneously a lot of money, and not nearly enough, depending entirely on where you're standing. You want cheap? Go to West Virginia or Alabama and accept the trade-offs. You want growth? South Carolina and Tennessee offer the best balance of affordable and ascending. You want safe? Virginia and North Carolina will cost you more, but probably won't implode. You want chaos? Florida will take your money and make you question every life choice that led you there. But hey, at least it's warm. The real question isn't where your 100K goes furthest. It's what you're willing to sacrifice to make it work. Because every single one of these states offers something and demands something in return. And in 2025, that's just how housing works. There are no free lunches, only cheaper lunches with questionable ingredients.